Hello everyone. I'm going to go over two of the questions from the 11.3 guided notes. So question number 1, if I look at my equation, x squared plus 2x minus 35 equals 0. First thing I notice, it is in standard form. It is set equal to 0, so I can go ahead and start picking out a, b, and c. Remember, a is the number in front of the x squared. I don't see one, but I know there's an invisible 1. The b value is the number with the plane x, and the c is the number all by itself, the negative 35. So what I'm going to do is take my numbers, plug them into my quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is located at the top of the page. So I have a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of that is divided by 2 times a. So now what I want to do is simplify what's inside my square root sign first. So that's simplify all these numbers first. So I'm going to bring down my negative 2 plus or minus the square root. Then I have 4. When I multiply these three together, let me change color for you guys there. That didn't help. Okay, so right here, I have negative 4 times 1 times a negative 35. So negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times a negative 35, which is a positive 140. So I'm going to put a plus 140 under my square root sign. And then all of that is divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. So what I'm going to do is just simplify these numbers. Continue simplifying inside your radical or your square root sign. So 4 plus 140 is 144 all over 4. Continue simplifying that square root, and I know 144 is a perfect square. If you're not sure how to do that on your calculator or your phone, whatever you're using, you want to hit the square root button and 144, and you'll see it is equal to 12. So I have negative 2 plus or minus 12 all over 4. So remember, the plus or minus sign right here, that tells me there are two different answers, so make sure you're writing out both answers. So we have negative 2 plus 12 divided by 2, and negative 2 minus 12 divided by 2. And then just go ahead and simplify each one of those equations, so add the numbers at the top. So I get 10 over 2, which divides to equal 5. And then my next one, I have negative 14 divided by 2, which divides to equal negative 7. So my two final answers are 5 and negative 7. So let's take a look at number 2. So first thing that jumps out to me right away, I see I have this I have a 5x at the end of my equal sign. First thing I'm going to do is have to get rid of that. So I want to move this over. Over here, there's no like term, so I'm just going to write it in standard form. So 2x squared should go first. The 5x goes next, so minus 5x, and then the minus 1. So all I did was kind of sandwich that negative 5x in between those two terms. And then all that now equals 0. Now I can go ahead and plug in my, pick out my a, b, and c. A is 2, b is a negative 5, and c is a negative 1. So again, I have my outline for the quadratic formula. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my numbers. So in that box, I'm going to have a negative 5. Then I have another negative 5 right here, the 2, the negative 1, and the 2. Okay, so first thing, let's take a look at this part right here. So this is a negative 5. So basically what this means is we are going to kind of multiply in negative 1 and negative 5. So that equals just a positive 5. So always treat that negative on the outside. Treat it like a negative 1. So now I want to go ahead and simplify what's inside my square root sign. Let me erase that real quick. So plus or minus the square root Negative 5 squared. Remember, that's negative 5 times negative 5, so that gives you a positive 25. Minus 4, and then I'm going to multiply then minus 4, 2, and minus 1. So that equals a positive 8. So notice that plus sign, this sign right here changed to a plus sign instead of a minus sign. And then at the bottom, we have a 4. So continue simplifying your square root sign. So 25 plus 8. So that is a square root of 33 all over 4. So next thing, we want to continue trying to simplify that radical. So I'm going to do some work off to the side here. So I created a video that I emailed out a couple days ago on simplifying square roots. So I can post that on the Teams page again if you need to see that. So basically what I'm doing is trying to see if this is a perfect square or if it can be simplified. So I'm going to break it down into the 2 prime factors. So the only thing that can divide 33 is 3 and 11. I can't break either one of those down any further since they're both prime numbers. So there are no pairs. Normally I would look for a pair of numbers and put that number on the outside. I can't do that. So square root of 33 cannot be simplified. And that whole thing is my final answer. So I want you guys to try the next 2 on your own. Make sure you're changing them to standard form, like I did with number 2, if it's not in standard form already. And then when you're solving your quadratic formula, always simplify what's inside your square root sign first before doing anything else. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me.